Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said, we played the sound yesterday, that she's like, I'm not voting for any budget bill, no continuing resolution, nothing that doesn't involve the defunding of Jack Smith's special counsel office and everything that he's doing. Do you feel similarly about that issue as you do to defunding the FBI and the ATF and the DEA, et cetera?
So George, when I was teaching law school, I learned and taught certain constitutional principles. When Marjorie Taylor Greene was teaching CrossFit, she learned a whole different set of values, evidently, because my idea of what this country should be like is based on the Constitution. And she sees the world differently. When you've got people who care more about their social media accounts than they do about the Constitution, we have a real problem in Congress.
He got her ass there. Credit where credit is due, but I don't want to give too much credit to that person because that's Representative Buck, who is not criticizing Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's a crazy far right winger. In fact, he's criticizing her as one of the most conservative lawmakers in our Congress. He's criticizing her because he's a member of the House Freedom Caucus, which, as you all know, has been publicly beefing with Marjorie Taylor Greene since it kicked her out for quite some time now. But she's, again, publicly beefing with them. So she posted this on Twitter. She wrote, I'm appalled at this factually wrong and completely out of touch letter written by Freedom Caucus member Representative Ken Buck about the treatment of January 6th defendants. First off, Mr. Buck passed the buck, very clever there, sitting member of Congress, by the way, on voting to object on January 6, 2021 and certified Joe Biden's election, so we know. I'll just start there. That Marjorie Taylor Greene is criticizing this man who just said that she doesn't know anything about the Constitution for actually faithfully executing his constitutional duty to certify the election. She's criticizing him for not violating the Constitution, but she goes on to criticize him for several other things too. Let's pull up this next one. He does not support President Trump, which is the worst thing you can do as a Republican. That is the biggest sin you could commit against their God King Emperor, is not supporting Trump sufficiently. Ken Buck has also been vocally against impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden, shockingly completely unwilling to even ask the question in spite of the overwhelming evidence proving Joe Biden has abused his power. Overwhelming evidence that we have not been made privy to, by the way. Overwhelming evidence that they have yet to shine a light on. But just on that last point about opposing impeaching Biden, he responded to that here.
I don't see any reason to start an impeachment inquiry at this point in time when all the power, all the resources that we can muster are now being used to investigate whether Joe Biden received money from Hunter Biden or Hunter Biden's activities, or whether he in some way knew about Hunter Biden's activities.
But to be clear, sir, at this point, you don't think that evidence has been presented. You're still waiting to see that evidence.
I do not think that evidence has been presented, and I don't think there's a need to have an impeachment inquiry when we have three committees that are doing great work developing the kind of evidence that would lead to an impeachment inquiry.
I just saw someone in the damage report chat referred to Marjorie Taylor Greene as the vanilla gorilla, and it just took me right out of the story. But Maz, it's crazy that like the worst thing you can do as a Republican, like I said, is really just go against Trump and not follow their completely nonsensical political charade that they're creating.
Yeah, first of all, going back to what I said earlier about these names they give themselves, the Patriot Defense Fund, the Freedom Caucus, they're the least free supporting group of people. They want fascism. They want to take away your right to choose whether you want or don't want to have an abortion. They want to, hold the economy hostage in order to get their agenda moved forward. The Freedom Caucus, for the most part, supports Donald Trump and wanted him to remain president, even though he'd lost the election, which is the definition of fascism. They wanted to basically get rid of the democratic norms and keep their guy in. But they call themselves the Freedom Caucus. So let's start with that. As you said, this guy Buck is not the best guy either, but his takedown was great. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, it goes again back to what I said before. She does not have an understanding of the law, and yet she just spews all this stuff. The fact that she wanted Ken Buck to vote against the approval of the election shows you that she doesn't understand the law. The fact that she wants Ken Buck to come up and support this thing with the Joe Biden impeachment, again, we have no facts. These people just throw stuff out. All they got to do is put one doubt in the minds of their followers, their constituents, and then it just spirals. And it's a crazy place we're in, and it's Marge should be, he's right. Marge should be teaching. If she were a CrossFit influencer and saying this stuff, I'd be like, oh, she's just another QAnon person. But she's one of the 435 people that we could choose out of 330 million people. This is the best we could do, which is really, really sad. And again, the last thing that you said, to your point, these people have a hard time. If you go against Trump, a Republican that goes against Trump is a Republican on their way out, which is sad in itself. How could that not be? That should be the number one thing. They should all agree, like they did the day after on January 7th. They all agreed. Lindsey Graham said, I'm done. And they can't be done because they're being held hostage by their cuckoo, and they're going along, and they're being wagged by the dog, wagged by the dog.
Right, and particularly concerning with Marjorie Taylor Greene is that she's cozied herself up to the Republican leadership and cemented a role for herself in the Republican Party for quite some time moving forward. So although we probably won't be able to vote her out of Congress because she lives in like a R plus 6,000 district, at least we can go and we can vote to make sure that her voice in Congress has as little say as is possible.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.